Hello, welcome. I'm Chris Lato, and I'm on Lato Files and UAP Society. I'm a retired F-16 pilot, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Caroline Cory. She is actually the director of A Tear in the Sky. She's an award-winning filmmaker, and I'd like to just play that excellent trailer right now. So let's check it out.
What has made mankind is an insatiable curiosity. Insatiable. What is that? Nobody knows. The phenomenon.
Nobody's ever done this as far as I know.
It's a huge amount of work, a huge amount of data and equipment. That has never been done.
Whatever this is more complex than we could ever imagine.
This is a first in the field of ufology.
The variety of devices we're bringing as a team to study the phenomenon covered an entire spectrum of different technologies in real time.
That moment shook me to the core because I knew my life was about to change again.
I think we're going to have like a couple of really, really good spots.
When I hear that you've assembled a team of top scientists using state-of-the-art equipment, I say to myself, it's about time.
This is an unidentified, unclassified new phenomenon.
Wow, Tic-Tacs.
Basically,
Maybe Tic-Tacs.
maybe.
Caught on our cameras.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Crazy. It isn't crazy, it's crazy. It's crazy.
We can go from body heat to very cold, like about minus 62 Celsius or minus 80 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
We will be transmitting data up to 800 terahertz in frequency. Our highest technology is up around 500 gigahertz.
I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing what you've uncovered.
We're triangulating and converging at 2 points, the same object.
It's fading.
It's gone. It's gone. It's friggin' gone.
Got something over, Catalina. We need you up here.
We could be heading towards the biggest "see I told you so" in history.
That's what we need, the smoking gun that'll clinch it. That once and for all will settle the debate. No ifs, ands, or buts. And in the process, rewrite all of human history.
Oh my God, you guys. Is this the wormhole? It's insane.
Okay, that looked amazing. I watched it recently. I didn't watch it right when it came out. There was a lot of negative hype around it. I think actually it's unreserved or not deserved because I thought it was a really good film. Really, really impressive. So Caroline, she's also a public figure and founder of Omnium method of meditation and consciousness. So we'll talk about that a little bit. She's worked with Dean Radin quite a bit. And she's also known for producing, like I said, A Tear in the Sky, Superhuman, The Invisible Made Visible in 2020, and The UnXplained. That's a series with William Shatner. So let's go ahead and bring on Caroline Cory. Hopefully she comes. There. Hi, Caroline. Welcome.
Hey, Chris. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent. Yes, you saw some of the UAPx footage I've been releasing. So from their results, we'll show that just in a little bit in the background. And you mentioned you had some more recent results. So basically more data coming out of that expedition. So I'd love to hear that. We'll leave that towards the end. So first, I'd like to get just an intro, how you got into filmmaking first off, and then UAPs.
Yeah, I actually started at a very young age. I was 5 years old when I started having, when I had an experience, but it was more with contact with beings, actually. So I'm more of an experiencer, as people call it, having those types of contacts. And so that opened me up to, wait a minute, how does that work? Like, how is it possible that you tap into something that you didn't know was there. Am I crazy? I'm probably crazy. I probably made it up. That whole thing. So that's how I got into the field of consciousness research. I researched the subject for like 20 years, did all sorts of experiments with scientists, and really, really learned a lot of the mechanics of what makes something real, and academically, I trained as a psychologist, again, to rule out the idea that your brain is not freaking out on you, and so because of all of this, then working with so many people from around the world, it's you get validation after validation, especially working with, oh my God, the whole world is like texting me right now. I apologize.
Yeah.
I turned everything off. Everything off. I don't
No, that's
understand.
fine. It's live TV.
Yeah,
You can take a
it's
second
live.
to find it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I literally turned everything off.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, on my computer, the text is off. On my anyway, so it's anyway. So working with these types of so many people, you start to get validation. Okay, so there is something we don't understand, and with that, then I started having UFO experiences. I would see things in the sky. And same thing, the first natural thing is for you to question, like, is that me?
Yourself,
Did I
to
make this
question
up?
yourself.
Yeah. So I'm not that kind of believer, like as soon as I see something, that's it, it's a UFO. So it took a long time to before I really accepted the fact that this was real. And then, because it was happening to me and to so many people, I thought we need to bring validation to this subject. And I started from doing workshops and things like that. I started working with making films about it, because I thought we need to put it out in the world, in the mainstream. And the best way to do that is through films. So I made one film called Among Us, that was all about from the experiencer perspective, people who had UFO experiences or direct contact with different beings and things like that. And then came Superhuman, and then A Tear in the Sky, and then, the other films as well. So through the process, I realized the best way to really validate the subject is to bring science. Can we bring any sort of scientific data so that we can actually have measurable effects? We can actually have data that we can discuss objectively. And so this is how this whole thing came about, and A Tear in the Sky came about, which was, I think, a first in ufology, when a team of scientists went out and set up an expedition from scratch, not analyzing data that was already out there, but getting the data from scratch in a scientific manner.
Yeah, that really seemed like a big difference. I just did my own kind of initial investigation expedition out to Mount Wilson Ranch out in Nevada. And I can tell you, it's a lot more difficult than it appears. If you can, just the amount of cameras and systems you had out there, just to get everybody out there for 5 days, I'm sure is just such a logistical nightmare. Everybody has issues, etc. So I thought it was very impressive to show real time, because no one wants to show their work. No one wants, you should never meet your heroes, and you should never see what's actually, the work being done, because it seems like people are just scared that, they'll get bad things said about them and their credibility be ruined.
Yeah, exactly. That was the idea, is just to go out there. And, I actually, we jumped in this, like, the group had never worked together before. I had never worked with this group before. And from a production standpoint, we had never done anything like this before. Think about this, Chris. It's already hard enough to film that number of people and that type of, and all this equipment, and also what is actually being captured. And having done that from 3 different locations, think about this simultaneously. So basically you had, we had pretty much about 10 cameras running at the same time. Think about just the editing part. And so we had the main team, as you see in that house, that was the main team with the biggest setup. And then we had another team at the same time on Catalina. And then we're talking about from a production, the cameras covering all of that. Then we had another team following the car, that was the mobile, kind of the satellite aspect of the expedition. And so imagine having to basically direct 3 teams at the same time. It was extremely difficult. The logistics were a nightmare, especially on Catalina. And I think the fact that we were able to capture so much, in 5 days, to me, just right there is a huge success that I've never seen before. So I'm very happy and with what we've done.
Yeah, I was surprised actually, because just in the general mainstream UFO, the mainstream UFO news, it was like there wasn't much data in there, but when I watched it straight through, like, eyes peeled, because I'm so interested in what you guys were showing was the actual how to get the data, how to actually get the correct evidence, the systems that we need to do, the mistakes. I learned from the mistakes. It looked like the great capture that they had, Dave Altman had basically with the night vision systems, as well as the video camera. That's amazing. All triangulated. But it seems like if the timing was kind of made a mistake, because you're always gonna make errors. That's how I learned from being in the Air Force, is you're just always gonna have issues. There's always gonna be errors.
Yeah, of course. And this was, like I said, it's a first. No one's done this before. In fact, as a filmmaker, the first thing I do is to see what's out there already in this genre, so in UFOs, who did any sort of scientific expedition, so that, we build on it, so we don't repeat somebody else's work or what have you. And so I was shocked that no one's really attempted something to that degree, at that scale. So like I said, we had so much equipment, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we had to put together for the first time, So we were learning and from our own mistakes, as you said, as we went along. Look at it, and not only just the typical cameras. We're talking about in the night visions that everybody knows about. We had FLIR cameras, 8 of those. And the FLIR cameras, you're a military person, I'm sure they capture the infrared range that's way, way beyond the typical night vision. So we had the regular cameras, the night vision, we had the FLIRs, 8 of those. And then we had inventions, unique inventions. We were able to send light messages and back. And so put all this together for the very first time. Oh my God, software didn't work, power went out, the calibration. So basically the first 2 days were a wash. And in production, we're talking thousands of dollars worth, down the drain, pretty much. And so it was a huge risk. And the fact that we finally ended up with, capturing things on the 3rd day, it started on the 3rd day. So Yeah, speaking of learning from our mistakes, we learned a lot. And so now moving forward, we know a lot more how to do certain things, how not to do certain things.
What
was
was your
necessary.
biggest lesson learned? You know, I actually want to go to Turkey. I did some videos on Turkey UFO every summer.
Mm,
The summers of 2007, 8, and 9, there was supposedly these mass sightings. And this one guy got all this pretty impressive video of this flying saucer. And so
yeah.
my hope is to go there and do kind of what you did here at Catalina Island on whatever scale I can bootstrap together. You know, this is a much larger scale. But what was the biggest lessons learned, I guess? Can I ask that?
Yeah, first of all, take into account that, you need more time to set up. We were hoping that within the first day we would be able to at least have things operational. But even though we had generators for power and all sorts of things like that, so it really took a couple of days, which actually is not bad considering the amount of equipment. So next time we'll be more prepared, even if we have generators, to make sure everything was calibrated perfectly. So take that into account. And the other major thing is we had so much data coming in. So we had, just think about everything being recorded, right? So you had the 8 FLIR cameras, you had it's complicated to explain, but we had a system where all the data would come through. We had, for example, the spectrum analyzers, we had the radiation detectors. So we had all this data coming at us and not enough bodies to monitor what was happening live and what was being captured, at the same time collected. So we were struggling with that. And that's another thing that it's amazing that we did end up, because how many people, go to expeditions and come back just the minute that you're looking away, that's when the sighting happens. And so we probably missed a lot live. But then we did miss quite a bit live, but then we found them later going through the files. So moving forward, I need to make sure that I have enough bodies to cover what's happening live and what's being recorded, which adds to the production and to the logistics, but that's the only way. And also we were working at night, because you can't film 24/7. You can't have 2 camera crews. It was already so expensive. And so, we were having shifts. We did the best we could, but next time, we'll have to organize this a lot better to stay on top of what's happening live and what is being recorded.
Yeah, you make a great point, because you recorded it as a documentary, but like you said, they were also doing actual science, with all this equipment. So yeah, you have basically double the video equipment. Yeah,
Exactly.
I went to do like I said, at Mount Wilson. I came back with like 400 gigabytes of data, and that was just, my own video. I can't imagine having hundreds of gigs. But the main captures I saw is this one is a white orb, which is what it appears like in the night vision, right? So obviously night vision isn't going to give you color. But I think it was also the optical camera is a high quality video camera, movie camera, and that showed it as a white orb, which is what they just reported in my most popular recent video about Russia shooting down a UFO. That's what they said, is that it shot down a white ball, which is what you guys captured, I guess, captured there.
Yeah, and this particular sighting was captured on 2 different night vision goggles and a CCD camera. We were working with 5K cameras. And so, basically our cameraman's camera. So that's also very significant. The fact that, it was captured in those 2 spectrums at the same time. Yeah, and that one was hovering there for a while, and then it made like kind of a weird turn or something, and then it just dissolved. It just disappeared somewhere. And so yeah, so that was our first capture. Actually, there was another one, but it wasn't, we couldn't record it. I mean, again, mistakes. But this was the first one that we did record from different camera angles and different spectrums.
That's so cool. And then, and like you mentioned already, was the FLIR, which was also captured in the same area, and that did look like a Tic-Tac, you know, kind of moved like it.
It totally looked like the Tic-Tac, and it did move like because it was going against the wind exactly in this way, and it had that same shape. So again, are we proving it is a Tic-Tac? We don't know. What is a Tic-Tac? You know what I mean? We're just capture. And by the way, for those who watch the film or who will watch the film, we didn't change anything. I mean, the raw data is in the film. The only thing we did sometimes is we would zoom in, but we didn't change anything. We didn't add any sort of filters or, you know, and so that therefore whatever they're seeing is what we captured. And it certainly, I mean, what do you call something that's moving against the wind that has the same shape as the Tic-Tac? I mean, they're calling it a Tic-Tac. It is a Tic-Tac for now.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of really great data in there, honestly. Yeah, I was very impressed. So you basically had the FLIR capture, you had the white orb. The UFO DAP seemed to work reasonably well. Did they have good luck with that?
Yeah, we had a lot of problems. And then there was another one. It's not in the trailer, but people will watch it. Sorry, I'm backtracking a little bit. In the FLIR also, there were very cool things that are in the movie. We would see things literally appear in the frame, make a U-turn and disappear, and then come back, like literally like they're making a big circle and then come back and then drop. And so there's very cool stuff that we had in the FLIR thanks to those cameras. But the UFO DAP, we had a hard time setting it up. That was one of our issues in the beginning, because basically we had two sets that were talking to each other, one on the car and one on the roof. Eventually everything was calibrated. Yeah, that's the system. Everything was calibrated and working together. The one on the left, I was going to say that's the UFO DAP, and there's a set of two. And so basically this system, eventually we got it to work perfectly. This system, you know, again, you can think of it as a security camera. It captures, you know, 360, but it also has a software that allows you to detect the mundane things. For example, it knows that the way a satellite looks or the way an airplane would look. So right off the bat, it already kind of tells you, it eliminates the potential sightings that are most likely an airplane or a bird or an insect. So that's very, very helpful with this system. And it has a lot of detail as to where the object is, you know, and the angle and things like that. And so, eventually one of the best captures, I think, in the film was done with this camera, started out with this camera.
Let me I think I have it. Is that this one or?
No, that's the wormhole.
Sorry, that's the wormhole. Yes, of course. Yeah, let's talk to that. So I have it here. This is from the video I made from their release. So Kevin and Matthew giving their results June 5th.
Right.
Let's
Those
see
of
if we
you
can
who was
compare 'em
wondering
now.
what I was doing while we were eating pizza, that's what I did.
They're so
there's
sciencey
the hole in the
too.
sky.
Yeah.
The bug, and it triggers and moves. So.
Yeah. So this is very compelling. I mean, to this day, by the way, look at that. There is no there is no explanation to what this thing is. Literally. And so you saw in the presentation, they go frame by frame. And then we had hours of data before this event happened. So we have controls. We have controls just before, just after, and we also have controls of many days before. So we know the camera. That's the first thing these scientists look at. It's a camera glitch. And so once they rule that out, it's not a camera glitch, because look, we have the controls, it was working, it's telling you this, it's telling you that. Then they go to, basically the scientists debunk themselves. I mean, that's what they do. Could it be this? Could it be a radiation? Could it be some sort of light reflection or something? But then you start getting it's not radiation, because if it's radiation, it wouldn't appear specifically in that spot. If it's radiation or some sort of light, something, it wouldn't open. There was a sort of a cloud. It opened and closed. There is no such a cloud that would move at 700 kilometers per hour. I mean, so what is that? What is that thing that opens and closes? Then we correlate with radar. Radar picks up picks up reflective objects. That's what the radar is picking up on. So what are these objects, and why are these objects like right there in that one spot? You see, there's too many weird questions. And the spike in the radiation that happens exactly at that time.
That was the cosmic watch, yes. That was the 43 mega electron volt. Sounds
correct, MeV. Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so when you put all these together, and then, of course, for those who don't know, Kevin Knuth and Matthew are very hardcore scientists. I mean, we're talking, it's like, don't even mention anything else but hardcore science. And so then they check with NASA. Maybe there's some sort of this. Check with LIGO. They check with Fermi. They check with all sorts of other potential explanations. Nothing can explain this phenomenon. And
Is that what they still think? You mentioned you possibly have some updated results. Has anything changed, or
yes? So yeah, and since then, of course, we are, and we've been sharing it with atmospheric scientists, with all sorts of, for scientists from different disciplines. It's like maybe it's some sort of atmospheric thing we don't understand, like anything. We just want to explain. So nothing is happening yet. Even at a university level, they are sharing it with colleagues and things like that, and at SCU conference. But after the film, that's what's been happening. And one of the things they said, well, maybe we could have satellite images, because we know exactly where it's located. We have the coordinates, we have the size, we have the shape, we have the elevation, the angle. So we start to request satellite images from different private organizations, governmental organizations. Long story short, either they don't have it or they won't give it to us. So we file a FOIA request. And it comes back, yes, we are the official reconnaissance office, geospatial reconnaissance office of the United States government. We do have all the satellite images. However, those that you are requesting are FOIA exempt, meaning classified.
Okay. So they basically turned it down. Is this what you requested, this area here?
Yes, we requested specifically that, not that area, not just that area, that time of, because we know exactly when that wormhole thing happened. So because we have satellite images before and after, but we don't, but we wanted that one. And they're saying, no, it's exempt. Exempt means classified. You know that, right?
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. So they give the time, they give the data before that time, and they gave the satellite maps after, but not just during that whatever it was in the morning. I think it was 6 a.m. or 4 a.m.
Yeah.
4 a.m.
Yeah, but I have to say though, to be very transparent, the data that I have before is not the same time. Is not a nighttime, because you have nighttime and daytime or whatever, and so but that's all we have. But why wouldn't they give us the dates and times that we require? I mean, what is in a satellite image of a particular location, you know what I mean, that would be classified? That's kind of like, huh? So
I don't know. It seems strange.
Very strange. And we have the letter of rejection, basically. So, we're okay. So now it's making it even more suspicious.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
We have, let's see, 573 people are here live from different channels. So thanks for coming, everybody.
Great.
Smash that like button. If you're just arriving, Carol and Cory, producer and director and participant of A Terror in the Skies, explaining basically updated data where they requested the satellite pictures, basically satellite images of this area where they had the collect, the 43 mega electron volt collect, and then the actual video capture of the tear in the sky. So quite interesting. Thanks, Caroline. Any other updates?
What do you make of it, Chris? You've checked everything, single possibility, talked to all different scientists. I just spoke to somebody from MUFON. She's an atmospheric scientist, and same thing. She said there's nothing that I can think of from my years of research that would resemble or explain anything like this.
All I could imagine is, maybe there was military maneuvers or something out there. You're never able to know exactly where a nuclear carrier is. The location of any aircraft carrier is supposed to be secret. I don't know. Maybe they have some weird law. It sounds very cool. I don't know. I don't do a lot of FOIA requests for satellite images, but it seems very interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't. What do you think of the Cosmic Watch? What was your take on that? Do you think we should bring that on future expeditions? What would you recommend, I guess?
Yeah, the Cosmic Watch, that's Matthew's baby. He worked with his colleagues from MIT on it. And it was fascinating because it can, it measures the frequency and the amplitude of the wave.
The particle.
Yeah. So, which is fascinating. But I was always struggling. I'm not a scientist, but I understand a lot of the mechanics of things, and sometimes I ask questions, to the scientists. So why can't we, from me, what I wanted to know, yes, we can measure the magnitude of this and the frequency of this, this energy burst or whatever, but I want to know where it came from. Is that possible? Did it come from exactly the location, or at least in that general direction, or did it come from behind us? Which, what does that mean? So I think that I don't think they're not there yet. And I've been talking to others, because just think about this. If there's such a thing as a directional radiation detector, that would be like crazy insane. So, from a scientific, I think someone is working on that possibility. But others are saying it's very difficult because you have to kind of narrow. I don't know. Like, again, I'm not a scientist in that way. So I think it's a huge improvement to other radiation detector, but I still want to know, if it's possible to even do better.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's right. Because this radiation detector, right? Like your Geiger counter just tells you if there is a particle there. But basically, Matthew said that this tells you what type of particle. So they detected a specific muon. So it tells you what type of particle, that's correct, but not the actual direction. It seems like if you had 2 or 3, you could determine direction fine.
Yeah, but again, maybe it's a difficult device or discovery to make, or so I don't know, but it's already incredible that we did have that correlation, because this is very significant. 43 MeV. I mean, it's, that's like huge. What could create something like that? And of course, we checked with maybe it's a solar flare or something, and there's no such thing happening at that time.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I think it is just kind of cutting edge, this documentary. What have your investigations or thoughts on the consciousness studies? Are you still working on that or heading that direction?
Yeah, so many people who are into the whole CE5 or whatever asked me, well, why didn't you include that? So first of all, as I was saying earlier, I'm a total believer in the consciousness aspects, which I'm going to talk about. But this film, in this way, working with just pure, clean, hardcore science, that had never been done before. So I was okay with making this film. In fact, I wanted this film to just be about the data. What would a scientist do? How would we set it up? What should we be looking for? What type of devices do we really need? What works? What doesn't work? That's what this film was about. Keep it strictly on data and science. And also, I think what this film did, keeping it very sciencey this way, is that, just think about this. We are civilians, right? So the government's telling us we have collected hundreds, or I don't know, now we have a little bit more from this latest report, apparently. But we don't have good evidence. We don't have good videos. And I mean, you know what they're saying. And they have $1 million radars, and they have $1 million whatever equipment. And we are civilians that went out with pretty sophisticated equipment, I must say. I mean, we had a lot, and it was quite sophisticated, but still, we're not the military. And so even with that, in 5 days, collecting that amount, we still have hundreds of data that is not in, I mean, this is a film, it's an 1.5 hour film. We can't be, putting all that stuff on there. So coming back with that much data, unusual data, in 5 days tells you two things. Either we got extremely lucky, or it's happening all the time. And we're just not looking all the time, or we're not using the proper equipment and the proper techniques. And I tend to think that it's the latter. I think this phenomenon is happening all the time. If you have the proper equipment and the protocol, you will capture something. That's what I feel. So that's why I feel this film served that purpose. Keep it very data, sciencey, and at least make that important point that this is a real phenomenon, and this is, it is happening all the time. So, but moving forward, I feel the consciousness aspect is extremely important, because I personally think that if this is extraterrestrial technology, which some of it I totally believe it is, not all, but some of it, I believe it is extraterrestrial technology. I don't think they're using radio frequencies to communicate. I don't think they're using our propulsion system to navigate space. I mean, it's so much more advanced, and I think it is based on consciousness. It's the connection between consciousness, intelligence, and the device itself that allows the maneuvers to happen. And the morphing, I've seen things morph from hard material, matter, to pure light. I mean, that sort of technology, where we're not talking nuts and bolts at all. And so I feel the consciousness aspect, a lot of people don't want to go there. It's their prerogative. But I feel it's one of those things where eventually you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that at the base of all of life is a substance called consciousness. You are conscious. You are a conscious person. We're speaking now as conscious beings. And so we're talking about reality. We're talking about understanding the laws of the universe. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about making sense of life, of how things operate. Why are we so, confused or shocked when we see something behave strangely? Because in our belief system, in our experience of reality, it's not adding up. It is not making sense. It's not so we're talking about our conscious experience of reality, what we know of as reality. And the role of science is to explain how reality works. You see. So that's why I think at the end of the day, we have to take into account the consciousness aspect, our experience of the mechanics of the universe. I think this is what to me, the future of ufology is. Was that kind of a big answer?
Yeah, that was awesome. No, that was great. Yeah, I wanted to show this video while you were chatting there. I made this video called "Here's the Next Physics Breakthrough." If you see there, it's really talking about
yes.
Yeah. Basically, what you kind of alluded to there is that the next big breakthrough will be from this other realm of physics. I think, like consciousness. It's kind of the argument of this video. And then this one is we should be open-minded to the woo. So interesting stuff there. So I totally concur. Like I said, I talked with Dean Radin, and he has scientific proof, that he argues the scientific proof. There's two actual formal experiments. They have 30 studies. So it just seems like if it's true, right? If it is true and we keep looking with an open mind, then we should figure it out sooner or later, right? As long as we're open-minded. I feel like a lot of people are too closed-minded, and they'll just shut off options before they even get to a final answer. And I think that's not the way to go.
Yeah, and let's be honest here. There is woo-woo as well. You know what I mean? There's woo-woo in everything. There is charlatans in every single aspect of life. There's charlatans in medicine, in everything. So there's a lot of fake stuff and stuff that's not real, but there's also real hard evidence. Like you mentioned, Dean Radin, I worked with him on several projects. I've been in his lab, and even Michael Tiller, in the 80s. There are real, if people would just want to be ahead of the curve, they would do the research, and they will find hundreds of articles and projects, experiments done by real physicists and real scientists who prove that consciousness has a measurable physical effect on physical reality. Quantum mechanics, non-locality, all of that has been proven, also has been demonstrated scientifically as well. So, but the mechanics of the mind and consciousness, there are in fact, Gary Nolan also, who's now very outspoken about UFOs, if you noticed recently, he's done experiments also, and he's done research on the brain of folks who claim to see certain things, and he's coming back with hard evidence. And so the evidence is there, the research is there, and I think these are the people that are ahead of the curve. We'll see in the future, and I totally believe so. In my next project, that's more, you'll see, it's going to be amazing, because it will still have the scientific approach, but it will demonstrate kind of scientifically how it is possible to have, for example, a telepathic contact with the UFO. For example, you've heard from the even credible testimonials, Commander Fravor, he's saying, I'm chasing this thing and it's like it knows where I'm going. It's like it knows that it's that I'm thinking this way or whatever. Why would somebody like this say something like that? So I feel a lot of people, there are a lot of more credible sources, Air Force pilots, commercial pilots who are afraid to speak up. I think now they're starting to be more comfortable. And it's not just about the UFO sighting, but about their experience, what they felt happened, that will validate this topic as well. So I'm working on all of that. And I think people, if they never had an experience themselves, I think there's this fear factor. They just don't want to go there. They just want to label it as this and that. But if they just keep an open mind, or if they have just one strange experience that they cannot explain, I think this is also very helpful to keep an open mind.
And so there was one question was, will there be a sequel to A Terror in the Sky?
Yes, but there is a sequel, but it's not in the same way. In other words, first of all, I'm working with a different team. I am still working with David Mason, who is the inventor. We didn't talk about inventions, but there was some very, David Mason. Yeah, he's basically, he owned most of this equipment, pretty much 95% of the equipment that you see in the film. So, and he's also an inventor. So we used some of his inventions in this film, but I'm still working with him in the sequel, and we learned so much, like I said, from our past experience. And so we have very, very cool inventions that are very kind of targeted and specific that we're going to be using. So I'm working with him. I'm not working with the rest of the team because it's a different approach, a different angle. It's still science-based, but it's slightly different. And so probably Michio Kaku, we'll see. But there's definitely a follow-up to this. We can't, if they're telling us you can't, we can't stop here. This was definitely a huge step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, in the movie, he was able to use this for convert the light into sound. That was quite cool, and then replay back like a communication protocol. And Travis Taylor came in. Yeah, honestly, I thought it was a great movie. I thought Gary Voorhees, Kevin Day, everybody did an amazing job. Matthew Sudeikis, Kevin Knuth. All these guys. I'm fans of all these guys, so I would encourage everybody, if you haven't seen A Terror in the Sky, is check it out, man. Support it for sure. This stuff costs a lot of money. To do. I just to bring myself cost more money, from documentaries. So I can't imagine, what it costs to run all this. So I would say, support it. You can buy it on. I bought it on iTunes. Excellent. And I want to say, it's very courageous. I have to just applaud you for going out there and making this film and putting yourself on the camera and doing something innovative. It's much easier to sit back and just, roll troll comments and say it's different, it's easy or it wasn't done correctly. And it's a much different thing to having actually done it and proven it, and have a quality product that we can show. So I just want to say that's awesome. Do you have a few minutes for questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. So we'll take questions from the audience. We have 700 people here. So thanks everyone for being here. Please smash that like button. And then the first question was, will there be a sequel to A Terror in the Sky? And it sounded like yes, with a different team, but working with Dave Mason on some crazy new inventions.
Yes.
And so that sounds like the sequel.
Yeah, a couple of the team members are still there, but because it's a different, it's just the next level. So definitely, I'm in pre-production right now.
Oh, here's a question. Can you answer these? I don't know. What's the budget?
I can't share because, but it was in the hundreds of thousands. And by the way, I I funded the project myself from literally my savings, just to tell you that I did believe in this project and in this whole subject. I did have a couple of sponsors who helped with, bringing on William Shatner, because that was an added huge cost. But I can't say the details, but it was very expensive for sure. Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, easily. So here's a question. Let's see. So overall, the Tic-Tac in that area around Catalina Islands is either U.S. created craft, non-human, intelligence-controlled craft, and those are really the only two options. What did the team think? You're kind of behind that. I know you can't publish it, and obviously you can only say, but were there kind of leanings on the team? Did they think it was a legitimate portal, and they just need to find more data? What was your impression?
Yes. I think that at the end of the day, we still cannot explain the way these things appear, disappear, especially with this wormhole thing. Those objects, by the way, Kevin Knuth was able to measure them and the shape. And I think he came back with the shape being the same as the Tic-Tac, being elongated, and also the same size, I think 35 to 50 feet each one. And there was about 50 to 100 of them. And so what is that? And then also Kevin Day, the radar operator, also mentioned that sometimes they would come down, rain down, like there was not just like one isolated one. It would be like dozens and dozens coming down. So they just
when it was raining, I remember that basically they were picking up in the flare kind of like rain. Did they ever figure out what that was either, I guess? After?
Yeah, somebody said it could be a malfunction in the actual camera, but we're not quite sure that that's really the answer, because what would happen is that we had all these things coming down at very, very high speed, and then we could see that they would touch the water and illuminate the water. Like you could literally see, and we could see some of them coming out of the water. So for it to be a camera glitch is strange, so that's another mystery that we captured on the how is this different than your work on Ancient Alien? Oh my God, it's so different. So on Ancient Aliens, I am one of the contributors. So I'm being interviewed on a topic that they have, the producers and the network, they have this topic. They bring me on because actually I am one of the few, if not the only one, who talks about the consciousness aspect, because I'm an experiencer myself. And I have such an extensive experience with science, studying science from a consciousness from scientific perspective. So I comment on those topics from my research and my angle, and that's it. I have no editorial, nothing. This is my film. This is my production. And so first of all, as I'm an investor, so I take on a lot. It's a huge risk, massive risk. The film business is not as obvious as people think. It's very difficult to get distribution and to make your money back. And the platforms are changing all the time. So it's very, very difficult to say, hey, I'm just going to make this film and it will be successful. Not necessarily. And so that's like a whole different ballgame. It's my whole passion, and I'm responsible for everything from beginning to end. And so you can't even compare. Ancient Alien is like so easy. Just show up and talk and go home.
Let's see. What is Tear in the Sky streaming on?
Yeah, people can go to terrestrial.com and then they'll see all the different platforms. But if you're in the US, you can watch it for free on Crackle, Plex, those. But you can also watch it on Amazon. If you're overseas, you can watch it on iTunes and Vimeo. So it's really pretty much everywhere. terrestrial.com.
And this, I think, what was measured on that graph earlier, I believe it was the 43 mega electron volt
Mega.
muon capture. That was with the Cosmic Watch. So we talked
Yeah.
about that earlier. It was a new device created from Matthew Sadagas's MIT buddies, I think he said.
Yes.
And they basically got that detection, and then they went and looked at the cameras, and that's where they found the tear in the sky, basically.
Right.
Let's see. Okay,
Kevin Day or Dave Altman. Yes, yes. Kevin Day, he's the one. I mean, when I did my research, I was planning the movie, I thought, who out there has a scientific team or worked with scientists on UFO things? And the first person I stumbled on was Kevin Day. And so I spoke with him, and he told me his story. And in the movie, actually, most people know his story by now, but in the movie, he shares some things that I haven't seen shared before. And he told me a lot of, things that happened to him. I was so touched. I love Kevin Day. And so that's why I ended up working with him, especially he already had these scientists on his team. Same with Dave Altman. And so, I mean, I'm still working with them. I'm not sure how, necessarily what role in this next film, because you'll see the next film is a different angle. I mean, it's still science-based, but it's going to be slightly different. We are still working on the storyline in this way, but we're buddies, and there's no issues there. We'll see how they fit.
Have you ever tried to communicate with the UAPs?
Oh my God, since I was like 5 years old, many times. And in fact, this is between you and me and the 700 people watching right now and the thousands more later. I truly believe that, I mean, some of these sightings, this was a science movie. Nobody believed in it. But me personally, I was in my hotel room, saying, come on, guys, you have to show up. You have to show up. Look what we've done. We're putting all this effort and energy. Please show up. So I was doing my work this way as, talking to my friends up there.
So what is your take then on the phenomenon? How would you describe it?
Oh, first of all, it's 100% real. A lot of it is military, I think, especially the triangular ones. But I think some of the Tic-Tacs, because there are different kinds, I think, and other things that morph and stuff like that is 100% extraterrestrial. Well, because I have other experiences too that validate that there's extraterrestrial presence. You know what I mean? So why would they not have also UFOs,
And I guess we'll go one more question. So how has the research changed your views on ufology? Thanks.
I think I'm even more convinced. I think we took this to a whole new level. What are we talking about here? Is it possible it's a wormhole? Hello. That's crazy stuff. So I think we are definitely in the right direction.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. Like I said, again, for the audience, if you haven't seen A Tear in the Sky, then I highly recommend you check it out. So check it. There's tons of data in there. I enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you, Caroline. Thanks for being here. I will have you step out, and then we can chat a few minutes later, or you're free to go on with your day. Thanks for being here so much.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a blast. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I just wanted to give a few updates. So we're actually talking with Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan will be on the show 1 February. We kind of mentioned him. And you can expect this Friday, I'll have a video out on Boris Zelyaev, his basically paper out of Kiev. So thanks, everyone, again, for being here. And if you write in the comments, I'll make sure and read all the comments best I can. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.